2022 was a whale of a year for Nintendo fans. It's hard to say whether it was the worst year in a while or not. On one end, we got critical acclaimed RPGs like Mario Plus, Rabbids, Sparks of Hope, but on the other, the company single-handedly took a dump of the Mario Striker series, released the worst sports game by a long shot, and published a Splatoon sequel that was more of the same. It was a phenomenal year for the Kirby series. Kirby and the Forgotten Land alone sparked a lot of interest in the series, surpassed Kirby's Dream Land sales, and won a Best Family Game award. With the exception of the new abilities and main gimmick it introduces, thanks for the Nightmares Mouthful mod. I lie if I say that the overall package isn't a massive step forward. And that's not even to mention all the neat side projects. But while the franchise is going stronger than ever today, the fanbase is in an interesting position. I'm not gonna pull any of my punches. I think that the Kirby community is given more credit than it deserves, and I'm part of it, so that's saying something. I'm not saying it's terrible, but I feel that the bad things they do are often overlooked. At one point, I genuinely appreciated almost everything the community had to offer. Back in the harsh times of 2020, I even used it as the main escape from whatever was going on at the time. And then came September 2020. Dumbest of all worlds deprecates Kirby more than Matt Pett ever did in his series about the franchise. I mean, it was just a YouTube edit of a PowerPoint presentation. It's not that serious. Bloodsuckers and Kirby saved the VHS release, making the Pink Path evil for the sake of it. They just exist to scare kids, they don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. Shockhead's content starts getting more and more annoying. It's just a parody channel, it doesn't have to be well written. These things don't represent the whole fandom, not everyone is like this. People still care about Kirby, right? You know where I'm going with this. With the reveal of Kirby and the Forgotten Land in the September 2021 Nintendo Direct and its release in late March, people were expecting 2022 to be the year of Kirby, which it was, at least if you only focused on the franchise itself. Many people asked for a 3D mainline game for the 30th anniversary. Me? Well, I expected a new fandom project that had a lot of care and effort put into it to celebrate. It didn't have to be the best thing ever, it just needed to be good. I did get my wish with a scary and tragic analog horror series in the form of TMK, and a new deviant began work on his first fanfic around that period. Kirby and Friends found its footing, but for the most part, when it came to popular media, nothing. What you would get most of the time, however, were the cheapest Ranger and Mouthful mod memes, over usage of the failbot moment with the least meme potential, something we're still somehow seeing to this day. Stories and series wallowing whatever dignity they had left, insulting people for merely having different beliefs, a chain of characters reacting to what runs a joke, and when we weren't seeing that, we would see mediocre cartoons who existed solely to distract us from how much of a mess we were in. Sure felt like the year of Kirby to me. It's already been 3 years since that announcement, and you know what's the funniest thing about it? We've gone back to square one. The people who didn't care about Kirby before 2022 didn't want to get into the franchise, and those people still don't want to get into the franchise, let alone be involved in the fandom in a positive light. The only difference is that now, even fewer people will say something negative about it. It's gotten so bad that not only did I want to make this video, but I felt like I had to make it for the sake of the community. Now, before I start ranting, I want to make sure going forward that what I'm going to say isn't meant to take away any good experience you had with it. If you like the community, that's great, but some have their concerns and I think they need to be addressed. It's more than just a small issue at this point. There are problems that have gotten worse and worse over time. And now that we haven't got any major news left to gush about, it's even harder not to notice them. If we have to treat each fanbase properly, then we need to criticize them properly. And today, I want to talk about its biggest flaws. The Game Theorists is a channel that needs no introduction. From the theories themselves, often lacking plausible points, to the millions of memes mocking its main host, it's safe to say it's not respected by gamers. Naturally, it was inevitable that one day MadPet will tackle the Kirby series, and while he had already done it for years and his theories left a lot to be desired, none of them became controversial until March 2019. You all know the drill. He posted a video that stated that Kirby is not a very good person, the Nintendo community tore it apart, and the second part was cancelled. Stuff like this has been touched on to death. What I loved to the discussion is how Kirby fans responded. They were defending Kirby too much. They made him too clean, going as far as to say that Kirby mouse attack isn't canon. And now it's hard not to feel disgusted at how moral guardian they used to be. Why? Because it shows how hypocritical they are. Only 1 year later will we get a worse version of this theory, and the reception was much different. It's not worth going over, mostly because it was a more fleshed out version of a dumb PowerPoint presentation made for a party and nothing else. But it's the first piece of media I saw that didn't explore the idea of Kirby being a menace with tact and grace. It's embarrassing, full of bad jokes that don't work, mixed with an out of nowhere "we have to stop Kirby, he's a criminal" speech. Some people took the hashtag cancel Kirby joke to heart, and that was way funnier than any of the jokes the video attempted. MadPet at least had some unique evidence. Michelle had nothing, and it shows. Beyond that, it portrays Kirby as this guy who can't be killed no matter what. And it'd be one thing if it was just joke videos like this, but it seems as though this attitude has been frequently popping up in fan animations and comics as well. The mid to late 2010s weren't always nice to the character either, but these last 5 years have taken this concept to another level. Thus, a new category of content was born: Lore-accurate Kirby. For those who need an explanation, lore-accurate Kirby content is the kind of content on the internet that makes Kirby look like a foodaholic and a dangerous, invincible foe. Many people defend it by saying that it stays true to the source material, which, don't worry, we'll get to it, but for now just know that it's one of my least favorite types of content. Why is that? Why does this portrayal make me so mad? After all, I'm not about jokes about characters being relentless. What makes it any different than, I don't know, Kirby's Nightmares Kirby? That one isn't any nicer. However, the iteration goes beyond that. He has goals, he makes genuine attempts at befriending others, and he wants to be seen for who he is and not what he looks like. We can debate all day on the execution, but the sentient vacuum cleaner was more than his basic traits. I'm tapped to 100 there. In lore-accurate Kirby content, those traits he's known for are his personality. Case in point, the reviving all the Smash Bros. Fighter saga. This is not a great story arc, even less so for his character. I refuse to call it the worst framework featuring him. I still think that Dumbest of All Worlds video and the Kirby vs DDD anthology are more infuriating and embarrassing, but there isn't any framework featuring Kirby that I find sadder than this one, and it's got no excuse for how much it bastardizes him. It's not trying to pass itself as a PowerPoint presentation made for a party and isn't trying to scare you, so what gives it a pass? I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, let's discuss how Kirby was portrayed in my least favorite piece of fan work featuring him. The reviving all the Smash Bros. Fighter saga / Sephiroth kills everyone / everyone got murdered by Sephiroth so now Kazuya has to bring everyone back / Kirby breaks character and becomes a caricature of a caricature. So one day Kirby walks around the corridor of the Smash House before being dragged on by Incineroar, who's going nuts over his recent research on the last fighters selected for the Smash roster. But before we can reveal them, Kirby shoots Incineroar and gets imprisoned for knowing way too much. Players can choose him next time they boot up Ultimate. Later that day, the Smash Brothers hold a E3 party to celebrate the arrival of a newcomer, but as more of them drink, they quickly faint afterwards. Cloud realizes that Sephiroth is pulling another of his nasty pranks, but it's too late. Cloud faints as well, and Sephiroth leaves. As if on cue, Kazuya enters the Smash House and realizes that just like in World of Light, everyone is dead, except this time, even Kirby won't be there to save us. Keep this in mind for later. Kazuya, being Kazuya, throws the fighters off a cliff, but as he's throwing the last ones, he hears screaming in the basement. Surprise, surprise, Incineroar is alive! And after hearing what Sephiroth did, the two decide to revive them all. Hooray! Already we've not off to a good start. This is how you begin your story arc, really. Kirby shooting Incineroar for trying to reveal the fighter's past, and it's not a one-time joke. This moment, this panel especially, will set off the way the guy will be portrayed throughout the saga. I did like that Incineroar wanted to get revenge on him, but he quickly changes tone when Kazuya brings up the Sephiroth incident. From this point on, his resentment towards him is never brought up again. There's not a single moment that implies that he hates the little guy. It's almost as if those strips were necessary to the overall narrative. And that's not all. Remember when I said that even Kirby wasn't there to help save the day? I lied. There's one comic where Incineroar and Kazuya counter every dead fighter, but don't find the pink buff, so they go to Lucky 2 to find clues, and as they watch the Kazuya trailer, they're dumbfounded, as he was perfectly fine all along. What? How? Look, I can forgive continuity errors now and then, but this plot point is more important than you think. This is the first revival in the arc, besides Incineroar, but he wasn't really killed. And if they go, nope, just have Kirby come back unscathed. And this would be a little more understandable if the comic gave us an explanation, but no, it's left up to interpretation. And really, the only way you can justify all of this is by saying, it's a reference to the character reveal trailer, don't worry about it, or he had multiple lives left, or sadly, he got the poison ability while drinking the liquid. No one would use such excuses for characters like Mega Man. He has multiple lives and the ability to copy elements too. Elements from other robot masters, but elements nonetheless. Yet he didn't survive, nor did anyone expect him to. No one did because of how unfair it'd be. You can't food poison 80-something characters while having only one survive and expect that not to look like you're biased from the character. Then again, the comic retconned Violet's presumed death, and she came back with every assist trophy to make the final battle more exciting, so maybe retconning Kirby's death was a blessing in disguise, right? Well, it soon becomes evident that the comic illustrators had no ideas for the pink puffball. Incineroar and Kazuya already battled with each other. We have two Isabel, yes, we really needed another one. Working on finding the resources to revive the others, and most of the characters from other franchises already helped the two on their journey, so all that was left to make the puffball distinctive was to double down on him being a weapon that can scare anyone, of the weirdo. Kazuya and Incineroar team up with Alucard to find two magic crystals to revive Simon and Victor. They get one by killing Medusa, and then the Grim Reaper enters the scene and threatens to kill them, but it's okay, because Kirby is there to stop him by staring at his soul, causing him to bow down and drop a magic crystal. Yeah, that's how they revive them. Not even a chapter later, as Wario and Simon look for a way to revive Toon Link, they're stopped by this thing. How do they defend themselves? They threaten them using Kirby like he's a gun or something. Dot of Light reveals that reviving Mega Man is easier than you think. All you need is a 1-up, which coincidentally looks exactly like his face. Learning from this experience, Kirby decides to revive King Dedede in a unique way. Can you guess what he's going to do next? It's not subtle at all. He mutilates a penguin and uses his head to try to revive him.
Cool.
When was it ever shown or implied he'd do such a thing? We're not gonna elaborate on that? Okay then. When I first saw those strips, I thought we'd hit rock bottom. and that the only way things could get worse was if they made more panels like these three. And no, after the incident, Kirby barely interacts with the people around him, and none of them use him as a crutch. There's a comic where Sephiroth asks aides to prevent whoever approaches him from using the rewind spring to revive Snake, and I was expecting this to end like the encounter with the Grim Reaper. But no, they went for something way less predictable. Shulk pretends to be the mailman and sells him Snake in his iconic box. How did he get revived though? Oh, never mind. My point is, with the next chapters barely featuring Kirby at all, I thought it just roll into obscurity. And then the ending happened. So after the last revival, Sephiroth goes to the Smash House with his team of video game villains and tries to talk the bad guys out of the Smash Brothers team. Surprisingly, valternate joins Sephiroth's side, he flips both girls in front of his former team, his character image on the character screen is changed to that panel, and yes, he's called evil. Wow, what a ballsy move. They finally made a character other than Kirby do something good for once. But what if this is just a scheme? I mean, why choose Meta Knight of all anti-heroes? Isn't he ever so similar to Kirby? Is Meta Knight Kirby in disguise? After watching the comic dub, I pointed out how the arc would end with Kirby tearing apart Sephiroth through minimal effort, with no second thoughts, because I already saw other narratives end with Kirby being unleashed and just saving the day for the sake of it, and the implications here made my prediction feel more plausible. But hey, maybe I'm looking too deep into things. I don't think the illustrators would stoop that low. I mean, this was a project that went on for more than a year. I'm positive they landed with a bang. This is the final battle after all. It's gonna be an epic finale. Yeah, no, Kirby reveals he was behind all of this, throws a friend after him, letting the Phantom Thieves defeat his impure art with ease, Sephiroth can punch Pichu, Kirby saves the day through minimal effort, and everyone acts like they didn't see it coming, despite being painfully obvious.
I told you, and you.
If this isn't proof that Debunked Studios don't care about finishing their arcs with a bang, then I don't know what is. Why is Sephiroth suddenly so weak and cowardly? He's been killing, threatening, and outright gaslighting a lot of people. And yet, the look of a young puffball is enough to make him wet his pants. Like he's Luigi or something. Sure, there are moments where he gets scared away by someone else, but these are reasonable because they're minor plot points. They have no problem with him having a panic attack when Sora randomly shows up, or the Legion of Doom guy Miss being too much for him to handle, because those are either believable or not important in the long run. This is the climax, and the comic clearly wants you to feel satisfied when the villain is defeated, but sad when you realize the show is over since it has a sappy epilogue, where Isabelle 2 bids her farewell to her friends and reflects on what happened. I'm sorry, but at that point, you lost me completely. And if you wanted to have this twist ending so badly, then replace Kirby with another character. Ryu, for example, who would initially be dressed like Ken to tie in with the rival/villain disguise thing, and make Sephiroth fight back. That way, not only do we get a twist that's about as clever as this one, but also a satisfying last battle, instead of having it robbed from us. This is what I mean when I say Kirby is anything but a character in this arc. Not only does he do so little that you could write him out of the story and almost nothing will change, but when he does something that shakes up the narrative, it's always either because the authors pretend he's a nuclear bomb, or he's doing something shocking for the sake of it. It's as if, while writing for the saga, the comic illustrators just never ask themselves if Kirby doing the things he did in these cases made sense or improved the narrative. For example, whether he should have scared the Grim Reaper and let that serve as the gag, or if pacifying Sephiroth with a friend art was so funny that it was miles better than giving us a more engaging endgame. But they refrained from asking those questions either because of another problem with the fanbase I'll address later, or because jokes like this were really easy to make. And people ate them up too. You don't feel like he's doing any of this because it's part of his character. It happens because that's what the scenes ask him to do. Even his pre-2021 counterpart wasn't that unhinged. What's more, these moments contribute nothing to the plot. Wario and Simon threatening this guy? No worries, it gets resolved when Toon Grandma reveals herself. Or how mutilating a penguin didn't revive Dedede. I'm glad that my eyes had to see that monstrosity. Sure, Kirby could be a menace too in all that fan works, but it was not typically done to shock the audience. Many of the more popular pre-2014 animations of comics balance Kirby's recklessness with some levels of maturity. Off the top of my head, he burns Mario in Mario Meets Kirby, but that is justified because he thought Mario was a thief. And when he realized the plumber didn't know a thing about the place he ended up in, he helped him go back to his homeland. He didn't just do it because he's dangerous. And let's not forget that in that video, he had more than 2 brain cells, and the humor he brought was more creative and funny. This video, which presents itself as an amateur animated adaptation of a bad fanfic, knew what it wanted to do with Kirby. Even in cases where this was not the approach, the character at least had some depth. Kirby used to be just a killing machine in Sonic Forever 2, before the series started focusing more on his movie career, beginning with Season 4. It's the bare minimum, but it's something. But outside of the moments I mentioned, WPS Kirby is such a bore. When he isn't used for morbid jokes or acts like a machine, he's just there, going through the motions. Which makes it all the worse when you realize that he's one of their 10 most used characters. With all due respect to Wooden Plank Studios, does this portrayal do your 8 most used character justice? Does this feel like a main character they should have tagged along with the others and not replaced one of the Isabelle? And most importantly, is there a reason why he was revived first and not in the middle of the journey? I doubt they were even trying to make a likable sidekick. They probably included him because he was the protagonist of World of Light and felt obligated to give him a major role in the retelling. And when the Kirby franchise got trending in 2022, they doubled down on the Kirby appearances, prioritizing quantity over quality. Because coming into 2023, Kirby's role became less significant. They didn't use him for so long because of his identity. He was used so they could experiment with his design. This costume is pretty sleek, don't you think? Multiple of the comic strips released in 2023 outright feel like they exist in an alternate continuity. Like how at one point Incineroar, Kazuya and Sephiroth have to fight gyms, and they don't use Kirby to cheat their way out. Or how Team Star threatens to stop on them, and Incineroar becomes a giant to protect them. I swear, if those events happened in the reviving all the Smash characters arc, Kirby would have just stood there, and the Pokemon trainers would have kissed his feet to make up for upsetting him. They have one joke about Larry being unimpressed that his Pokemon got their back kicked by him, and another about how charismatic he is for succeeding at making his comments enter the light gym by saying his catchphrase. And that's all he contributes. Hey, Editor's Note, it has come to my attention that the Wooden Plank Studios team has left the webcomic world to focus on other endeavors, and as someone has talked smack about them a lot in this section, I wish them good luck on their journey. Who knows, maybe they'll make something I'll enjoy too. Anyway, back to the event. And Everyone is Home isn't the only product that does Kirby dirty. I've talked about it so much because a recently was handled here, but the aforementioned Kirby vs. Dedede saga, Kirby's Tyrannical Rule, Bloodsuckers, Safety VHS, and many other fan works also bastardize Kirby to the point where you will hate him as much as his friends. It's because of content like this that I consider 2022 to be the year where Kirby as a character kicked the bucket. You did not get to meet and appreciate him during the 30th anniversary. Whenever you saw him, you would have thought he was a bundle of joy with nothing to say, or a nuisance With Villager I get it, they're the player's avatar, they don't have an established personality, and the game they come from is about as deep as Winnie the Pooh. Most people aren't super attached to them for a reason other than Animal Crossing is cozy. But the Kirby franchise is so much more than the adorable brand general audiences see it as. It, as well as the creative portion of the fanbase, wants to be appreciated for the qualities other Nintendo franchises would never dream of offering. That's why I hate how Kirby is often used to make the jokes you would make in 2013 with the Villager. Already people outside the Kirby fandom don't understand what makes the series so special, so seeing this portrayal so frequently isn't going to win them over. Even in most of his better appearances, he's been flanderized beyond the point of recognition. Without his abilities, aggressiveness, and potential connection to Void, he's just this. An infant. Yeah, Kirby is a child, but I like him better when he was written with some common sense. I much prefer a Kirby who can let loose and have fun, but also take things seriously when he has to, and feel negative emotions without having the media make jokes out of these moments. Something that screams, boo-hoo, something made Kirby sad, torment them. Or, whoa, this character inconvenienced Kirby by doing something little, and now he inconvenienced said character even more. Ignoring fanfic writers and obscure content creators, the Kirby Crew comics by Man's Mad Art portraying the best currently, and is reduced to giggling whenever someone mentions how fighting abominations has never affected him, and never will. A poppy playtime content farmer gave him more depth. What's even sadder is the Kirby's fanbase view on this type of content. After the whole MadPet fiasco, you think that they would be concerned about how the internet treats their favorite character, but not even they feel bad about it. If anything, it seems that they've embraced it. The way they act naturally whenever they see this portrayal makes it hard to remember that they used to be against it at one point. And oh boy, do the excuses they parrot get worse with each passing year. You just hate fun, don't you? The content doesn't need to be more than that. Nobody genuinely believes or wants you to believe Kirby is like that. Except MadPet. Kirby fans also make it their duty to find every video, image, or post to remind you of how nefarious he is, so that you will remember and appreciate this portrayal too. Even the most innocent ones have many comments about how it's a blessing Kirby spared you, and I'm just left baffled because isn't that going into our thing of ruining others' fun? Can Kirby be written in a compelling way in this day and age? Absolutely. Kirby the King's Gambit comes to mind, an animation that breaks many of the clichés found in mesh videos and other animation channels. Needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised to see how it handled Kirby's character, especially after what happened in Bloodsuckers. He doesn't turn into a demon midway through, he doesn't say Poyo even once, the animation allows him to form a coherent sentence, and he isn't an idiot. On the contrary, he can be self-aware at times and is overall a joy to watch. Except in the scene where he's sucking a chess figurine like a pacifier. I get that it's a Simpson reference, what with the sound effects used, but come on, did you have to make him look that childish? The plush video Lost by Ash Star Films is another great example, and not because it coincidentally shares its name with my channel. It was interesting seeing him being the one to suggest going outside, and I really enjoyed how it handled his descent into madness. If you're looking for a more mischievous portrayal, Meta Knight Wants to Battle has got you covered. So yeah, Kirby can be well written, but even when I see a portrayal like these three examples, I don't think it's intentional, like the people behind them wrote a Kirby that would be better than what you usually get, that would stand out in a good way. Writing Kirby holds less and less weight as we speak, and looking at the reception and the shots on the King's Gambit, maybe it's a miracle that Kirby turned out good. The creator's favorite scene is the one where Kirby embarrasses himself, not one where he'll say or do something funny, Not one where either of them breaks the persona the internet has given them for years. No, it's a scene where Kirby acts like a baby that wouldn't look too out of place in the Kirby crew. But if you think that's bad, oh boy, we're just getting started. Back when the internet was in its infancy, hardly anyone talked about Kirby lore, mainly because when Sakurai directed the franchise, the series was much simpler. It wasn't any deeper than Pink Gumball, Gorbit, Penguin King and maybe some Dark Matter Force. It wasn't until Kumatsaki stepped up and directed Superstar Ultra, and especially Kirby's Adventure Wii, that the series was shaped into the complicated lore fest it is today. And while I'd argue this change was for the better for the franchise, it gives room for more theories and headcanons. More often than not, it's taken way more seriously than it should. It's no secret that whenever someone argues that the series is for babies, or isn't deep at all, the other side of the internet exaggerates its dark aspects, as if they're as disturbing as that of Evangelion or Madoka Magica. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Something that's caught up especially in the last 8 years or so is the belief that Kirby can beat every other character out there, which I can understand to a point. No one would want to watch a video on how a character is stronger than the average protagonist. That's not how the algorithm works. But the evidence people use to back that claim up makes just as much sense as what you'd find in a game theory video. People are hungry for power, and no video cements it more than Late Night Pie's analysis. When he isn't talking about how deep the lore is, the points he makes are either inaccurate, baseless, or applicable to any character. Of course, Kirby is quick when he rides on his warp star. Never mind all the times he violently crash lands into the ground when he stops using it. He beat Galacta Knight in the 2 arena twice. Need I say more? He defeated multiple multiversal threats by using some artifacts when it's implied he can't use the same artifact to fight other intergalactic nightmares. And with the help of his friends, often being unable to defend himself on his own for a long time. He can die and come back. Why, yes he can, so can Alex Kidd. It's called the life system, every platformer has one. And because that wouldn't be a Kirby Powerscaling video without it, the minigames Megaton Punch and Star Slam Heroes are brought up, as well as the infamous Infinite Power pause screen from Planet Robot. Yeah, those are amazing points, use them all the time. I'm gonna be honest guys, I never thought it was that big of a deal, mostly because this is not present in the Japanese version of the game. Here the pause screen states the possesses infinite potential. Sure, on paper they're similar, but in practice they're not. Friendly reminder that something similar happened with Mega Man 7's ending, where the English version adds something new that isn't present in the original. Right then have Mega Man stand there in silence after being reminded by Wally that he can't kill humans, as that's against robots' law. He says he's more than a robot and nearly kills him. Mega Man fans see this ending as non-canon because of it, and probably would disregard this post-screen too, if it was part of a Mega Man game. But this is Kirby, my friend. No one cares about which one is the true description, because even if this is a translation error, it's something that benefits the fans. Honestly, I would have already forgotten this line if people stopped shoving it on my face. Ouch. It's especially baffling to me how people use the opening to World of Light as evidence that Kirby can outrun stuff, when that Kirby isn't the real Kirby, just a toy. I love how it's unanimously agreed that the Super Smash Bros. Series isn't canon to the original franchises, but when we're talking about Kirby, this fact is sent to the Shadow Realm. But Kirby can outrun things in the games too. Right, and I'm Sakurai's wife. Also stop with that. But the age, he's young and he'll probably be stronger when he grows up. Because that's true. He will also get a lot weaker when he becomes an old man. When you power scale a character, how strong they'll be in a distant future doesn't matter. We're not power scaling Kirby from 20 years. We're power scaling Kirby based on what he can do now. There's another point I nearly forgot about, but the minigames have been confirmed to be canon. No, it has never been proven that the minigames are canon, and the source for that is talked about in a wrong manner. Trust me, I checked the interview those people usually quote. Most of those delusional fans say that this interview proves that the minigames Megaton Punch and Star Slam Heroes are meant to show what Kirby can do, as in, what feats he can do. This is a triple deluxe interview, but okay. Meanwhile in the real world, Kumatsaki is talking about how the side content, including minigames, is made with the goal of experimenting how Kirby will be in game genres other than the usual platforming genre. This is Tommy Talavico levels of changing something to fit your narrative and expect authors to believe it.
But we also get this statement from the creators, making it clear that minigames are intended to show the character's potential in non-story situations.
No, they aren't. They're just what-ifs for experimenting on other game genders. If I move to an alternate universe where everyone else is stupid, and if your response to that is that Kirby relies on the what-ifs to be strong, maybe it's time to stop treating him like a powerhouse, don't you think? Saying that Late Night Pie's video was the first to analyze Kirby's power would be wrong, as 7 years prior, we would get a Death Battle episode about him against Majin that would start off this very idea. The episode begins regurgitating Meta Knight's backstory in the anime before moving on to Kirby. The Death Battle team starts describing his skills, such as his ability to inhale enemies and copy their abilities and how stretchable he is, which are both true, even addressing how he can swallow things of creatures that are too big or heavy. That's nice, but here's where things get a little questionable. First they include the fact that he rides on a warp star, which isn't exactly his own personal device. Anyone can ride it in the games. He also doesn't just create another one on his own. Seriously, how did that thought come to their minds? They also state that he can summon helpers, which in 2014 was only possible in Fanpack and its remake, and 10 years later the only other game where you can do that is Star Allies. Kinda. They move on to talking about their copy abilities, but some of them are more accurate to the anime than the games. And yes, it does matter since they're different. Finally, the power scaling analysis of this character culminates into a description of the Hypernova ability, an ability that appears in one game. Also, Game Kirby didn't drop off into the sun, nor did he canonically crack the planet he lives in half. The episode moves on to talk about Majin Buu's abilities. I haven't watched Dragon Ball, so I can't say if those facts are accurate or even canon, but I assume they are. Finally, we get to see a sprite animated battle between our two contestants, which is actually better than I expected, especially by 2014 standards. Kirby doesn't automatically annihilate Majin Buu, he doesn't always have the lead, he feels anxiety at one point, and the battle is pretty fun. It sucks, however, that the way Kirby wins is the most BS thing I've ever seen. Of course he has the miracle fruit in his pocket dimension of a stomach. Why wouldn't he? So yeah, you can see how even before the infinite power thing came into the picture, people were already hyping up Kirby to be a powerhouse bigger than he actually is. And it doesn't end there. Look at every Kirby vs X debate video that ends with Kirby winning just because he has quote-unquote infinite power without really elaborating. And when it's done, the context is usually ignored or changed. Yes, the ones who joke count too. They don't exist in a vacuum just because they are trying to have fun. In fact, it's the people who are trying to have fun that end up being bad influences on the community. They are the same people who hide behind a lie so that they can get away with spreading as much misinformation as possible. They want authors not to disregard arguments that make Kirby stronger than another character, when they do that with literally any other character. And I'm not just talking about Kirby vs Goku or any other debate about him and another God Slayer. I'm talking about genuine debates where we spell with another regular character. Tile Records LOL's video on the Kirby vs Sonic debate is a perfect example of how people can't let others be. That video had many valid arguments against Kirby and for Sonic, yet Kirby fans still acted like they underestimated their boy, with multiple people commenting on how he says in another video of his that Kirby can't suck up everything in his games, which is true, but they defend it by saying that he can't do that in the games because they're supposed to be fun. He can still suck up everything. Yep, was Kirby mouse attacks plot and gameplay a cause of ludonarrative dissonance too then? And I know what you're thinking. Those videos have about 1 million views, so of course people who don't believe in him will have something to say about them. But no, it happens even with videos whose view count is as low as 1,000. Notoriety does not play a role in this scenario, and the reason I groan at situations like this is how much Kirby fans persist, making sure that everyone is absolutely convinced that Kirby is unbeatable, turning even general discussions about Kirby into power scaling debates. And yeah, you can say that I should leave power scaling debates alone because it's all fiction, everything is subjective, and these hypothetical fights are nothing more than that, fights that will never happen. But if that's the case, why don't Kirby fans have to follow those rules? Powerscaling debates involving Kirby have gotten to the point where they feel like skits from a sitcom. Half of the time I'm expecting a laugh track to play at the end. There probably used to be a time when they were more serious, but now they're so ridiculous that they can usually be dumbed down to this. Kirby is the strongest. No, Kirby isn't the strongest. Of course he is, and you will know that if you played insert Kirby game here. Actually, I did play that game for more than 5 seconds, and what you said makes no sense. Of course it makes no sense, why are you taking it so seriously? Besides, Kirby and Al don't care about this stuff, so stop being desperate, bro! I witnessed such a debate this August, when someone posted a Kirby vs Bill thread, and the devil was unleashed. It got so bad that when someone made an edit where Bill Cipher threatened Kirby to kill him, someone did an edit of the opposite and uploaded it the very next day. People are that butthurt over someone trying to make Kirby look anything but unbeatable that they will steal your hard work and change it to fit in their stupid beliefs. What the heck? When a nuanced Powerscaler lectured Kirby fans in a very cathartic way, most of them mocked him, treating him like he was taking this debate as seriously as someone cursing the name of God, with comments that basically went along the lines of, "No, screw you, we're right, you're wrong, because we said so." Powerscalers when they come to the Kirby subreddit and find out that people are rooting for Kirby. I love when Kirby fans act like only they have such an opinion. It's not just you who root for Kirby, it's almost everyone on the internet. Find a popular content creator who said Kirby can solo fiction who wasn't ratioed to oblivion. You can't! Fans have also defended this incident as them memeing. I guess it's okay to bully someone so long as you're memeing around. Have fun hearing that in other debates. While all of this was happening, Reddit user King Mashan was a pretty mature discussion post, where we discussed the bigger issue with power scaling, not just in this fandom, but in general. Every possible scenario of who will win in a fight between X and Y has the same answer. And that answer is that the winner is whichever character whose victory will make the story more interesting, compelling, fun, or satisfying. Let's not forget we're dealing with characters here, not real people. And characters are tools with which to tell a story. They have no intrinsic power value. They are as powerful and capable as the story they are within demands. No more and no less. By this logic, it is feasible that any character in the world could beat any other character if the story they are within is best suited to the first character's victory. Now, the fun is making your case for why your favorite character might win in a given scenario, and that is fun. But when that begins to devolve into, well, I'm right and you're wrong, this is the definitive answer, it not only stops being fun, but it undermines the entire point of the experiment. Was that too advanced for you? It means you shouldn't be a jack about who's stronger and who loses. But even when you beat people with facts and logic, it's no use, you can't reason with them. I tried that last year when someone called them out for ignoring the many artifacts Kirby uses in the final battles in many of his games. Their response was, well, Link has the Master Sword in nearly every game and we don't count every time he kills someone as being the Master Sword's doing and not Link. But here's the thing, any Link can use it at any point to beat anyone. I don't see Kirby being able to do the same thing with the Star Rod, or the Love Stick, or the Triple Star. And when I pointed it out, the fandom panicked. I can imagine the guy who made that initial comment reading mine and saying, "Holy smokes, he cornered me! I'm gonna downvote into oblivion!" And now we're witnessing most examples of Kirby fans getting criticized for their tactics getting banned by the mods. You could argue that it's to keep the subs civil, but I don't agree with this sentiment. In my opinion, both sides should voice their opinions, no matter how harsh they may be. It's either all or nothing. If you silence one side of the discussion, that is censorship. And no, this is not me saying Bill Cipher or Sonic or my classmates can beat Kirby. I'm talking about Powerscaling in general here. Oh, and by the way, moving forward, ignoring the fact that if all are not worried about it, neither should you. If you think exposing Google is important, I'm sorry, but you're the desperate one. The objection that lol Kirby vs Goku debate video is supposed to be funny because of how over the top it is, with its arguments for Kirby and against Goku. But then you realize this is how Kirby fans can be when it comes to Powerscaling debates, and you stop laughing. They feel entitled, like if they see someone legitimately think X is better than Kirby, their ego will break in 1,000 pieces. That isn't defense at their worst. Going from rude to downright malicious, their way of dealing with misinformation and unpopular opinions is easily their most egregious fault. This is a clip of the terminal montage classic Something About Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. You might wonder why I played it, and that's a simple question. The thing is that this is how Kirby fans act whenever they see someone else's opinions. You may think I'm being overdramatic. How could the Kirby fanbase be so harsh over something so small? And I thought so too at one point. But if you pay close attention to what I'm about to say, you might never be able to see them the same way again. Everyone and their sister has talked about the Matt Pet and the Susie incident, at the very least the one that was made in the 2010s. So I just refer to their responses to unpopular opinions. When it comes to opinions, Kirby fans are really despicable. There really is no context. The sad thing is that they often get mad for the dumbest things ever, some cases almost reaching Sonic fandom levels of toxicity. When Uncle AI made a video in 2020 about how the Kirby series was in a dry state at the time, which I still find confusing to this day, the amount of backlash she got was the equivalent of a wet fart. Now, it's no surprise many people agreed with him, given what the Nintendo fandom has all thought of the Kirby franchise and Kirby Star Allies. But still, the video is literally just him moaning about Kirby being bad, without really elaborating on why it's bad, aside from saying that the Wispy Woods fights are similar, and how other franchises are bad too. He doesn't even act like it's his opinion, he acts like that's how it was. If Kirby fans rushed in and caused drama because of it, it will still be bad, but at least they will do the series a favor. But they didn't do that. Instead, they harass others, really for their opinions on the characters. So, there's this guy called Shen who's known for being the creator of the Altered comics. I don't know if they're good or not, and honestly, they're pretty relevant to the video. But back in 2018, he got in some drama with the Kirby community. What did he do, you ask? He posted a tweet claiming that Kirby is the worst Nintendo character ever and quickly regretted his decision, as a legion of Nintendo fans came forward and harassed him until the very same day he had to make an apology tweet. Worst of all, he made not one, but 2 comics regarding the situation, and honestly, they're quite depressing. I know there are a lot of grown teens and men who get angry at silly cartoons of comics, but these aren't silly comics. They're a testament to how harsh the people around you can be. Especially the second, who claims that even the devil likes Kirby, which, let's be honest for a second, even he wouldn't care about this subject matter. He'd be more worried about those who bully those who don't like him. I'm just saying, but there's a special place in hell for those people. Some would argue that he makes jokes to grab the attention of those with his comics. Therefore, that tweet was also satirical and attention-grabbing. And I hope that was the case, because if it isn't, that's really sad. And by the way, this is the only time I'm going to talk about something that happened on Twitter, so don't say that I expect better from literal hell. But hey, that happened on Twitter, and besides, it happened 5 years ago. Kirby fans must have changed. They couldn't possibly harass someone for not liking Kirby on Reddit. They harassed someone for not liking Kirby on Reddit. This is why you don't assume that people have changed just because something happened a long time ago. There's this little subreddit called r/Kirby8, and as the name suggests, it's a subreddit for those who aren't into the Kirby franchise, and especially Kirby as a character. It was created on December 6th, 2021, and for most of 2022, it was left pretty much unharmed. Then it became infamous in the Kirby fanbase in November of 2022, when someone posted about the fact that the members were going to review bomb Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Now, despite how they may look, these people have reasons why they don't like Kirby. Their arguments are that 1. They don't like the main character because he's more of a cuteness machine than a real character, and 2. The stories are either so childish they feel like they were made for preschool thoughts, or so dark they feel like they're just trying to shock you. And while I strongly disagree with those sentiments, they kinda have a point. For one, while Kirby is far from being a blank slate in the games, the more recent mainline entries do lack many of the emotions he felt in the classic Kirby games. Nowadays, you only really expect Kirby to be happy or angry. You don't really expect him to be sad or frightened as much as he used to. The games released in 2022 were definitely a step in the right direction, but for the most part, he's not super expressive. Yes, non-canon media like the novels do give Kirby a richer personality, but they're a separate continuity to the games entirely, so you know. Secondly, a lot of stories, especially in the present day, have quite a lot of their elements hidden via post-screen lore, so it's easy to assume that they're not that well written, and the parts that are deep come from nowhere. Despite all of that, Kirby fans in their Kirby fan behavior joined the subreddit for the sole purpose of harassing those people for having those opinions, especially its founder and moderator, u/Pure Lombardi. Now, there were a few people who understood where they were coming from and even tried to show them that Kirby can have more character than the games and the anime show, but the fandom was held back by the aggressive majority. For the rest of November 2022 and even a few days of December, they were at it, insulting him largely for petty reasons, like how he didn't say Happy Cake Day to a random editor, or how he saw Sia cutesy and immature for being animals, which apparently, in their own words, was super ironic since, again, one of his complaints for Kirby is that he's, again, not my words, too cutesy. First of all, the Roses that weren't supposed to be a part of a well-established IP which sold 51 million copies and counting. But second, He's admitted that he does like cute characters like Sackboy because he isn't treated like a powerhouse. Some went as far as to make fun of his deceased stepfather, and as someone who recently saw one of his grandparents metaphorically vanish before his eyes, this post hit extra hard. Those people don't care about having human feelings, they just use your hot takes as an excuse to bully you and the people around you. Most Sonic fans, bad as they are, don't bring dead relatives into the mix when they argue about how a bad take is bad. For crying out loud, in that fandom they at least feel sorry for your losses. It got so bad that a person made a subreddit solely to criticize the people in the Kirby subreddit. When people tried to reason with said person, the response was almost always, "No guys, you just don't understand. This isn't a fandom about bullying people, but rather criticizing their behavior." Which was a lie, since the names in the screenshot were never censored, and most of them were rage bait anyways. I know names weren't censored in our Kirby 8 posts either, but that doesn't make it fair game. So 2022 came and went. But wait! Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is coming out in February. We gotta start harassing Pure Lombardi again. But this brings me to my next point. If the problem isn't about their opinions on Kirby's character or the franchise, what's so worrisome about review bombing a game? That doesn't do anything, and we know it doesn't do anything. IGN, one of the most popular businesses, has done games like Kirby Triple Deluxe dirty with their reviews. And you know what? That didn't stop many Kirby fans from liking these games. Of course, they can be divisive, but even Kirby is no stranger to divisive games. I don't like Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, as some of you may know. I hate the way it's structured, it's a Metroidvania done wrong in my eyes, the plot isn't that interesting, the soundtrack is a mixed bag. But even with all those complaints, I won't lie that this game has some good elements too. I like how the multiplayer was handled. The abilities are starting to get multiple moves after almost a decade of having only one of two moves after they ditched the fun pack formula. It has its audience, and I'm happy that it's getting the love it needs, even though I'm not part of said audience. But here's the thing, I don't go out of my way to harass those who like this game for liking the game. Shocking revelation, I know. I don't think I need to explain this, but I have to apparently. Having a quote-unquote bad opinion doesn't give others the right to attack you. But screw that, am I right? Who cares about morals of common sense? We need to get rid of the tyrant who got angry at Kirby fans. Why is it that he always puts negativity anyway? I don't know. Maybe it's because you're bullying him over a video game character? I get that Kirby is a good character, a great one even, but that doesn't mean you need to harass someone for having a hot take. Kirby is a fictional character, and Pure Lombardi is a real person with real human emotions. No matter how many times you try to villainize him for expecting depth in a series about fun, like that shields it from criticism. And the drama ended when the moderator of our Kirby 8 got banned from Reddit, with the people at our Kirby 8 celebrating like the heroes they think they are. It's stuff like this that makes me long for the days where Kirby could be mocked for not having a penis. Now it's as simple as calling Kirby stupid to get on the fandom's bad side. Just say something negative about him, and people are going to make jokes at your expense at best, and at worst, you can be held hostage until you give in or get banned. Look at this comment. Just look at it. They're dancing on the grave of their victim, and they don't even care about what they've done. They're happy with what they've done. Disgusting. Okay, maybe I'm being too harsh on the Kirby fandom. All the harassment towards Pure Lombardi was towards the review bombing of a game. That could have hurt its reputation. So did it happen? No! Metacritic has a page on Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Check it out as many times as you want, it has no negative reviews whatsoever. And I checked the original game to be sure. Neither game was review bombed. There was no plain Great Kirby Review Bomb of 2023 event. and those who say it was happening are liars. It was always a prank, an inside joke if you will. But Kirby fans ignored the part where somebody other than Pure Lombardi posted the idea as a joke because someone hated on Kirby. Now that's the right topic for some juicy drama. Well, at least most people later that year felt the harassment towards Pure Lombardi was mostly unjustified. Bullet Boy, the guy who called him subhuman and said that no one would ever want him, still argues that no one should feel sorry for him because he asked a bot making community to make a bot that would review bomb the game, as if that would change our perspective of the game. And no, he doesn't have any proof for what he said, you have to trust his own honest words this time. But most of them felt sorry for what happened, so at the very least, the fandom learned from this experience and became a more civilized place? I wish. Yep, despite saying that they didn't want the fandom to be as bad as the Sonic fandom, it looks like they learned jack from that experience. Because a few weeks later, someone opened up a new subreddit called The Infinite Death of Kirby, and the fandom just went back to harassing people. The posts were videos of edits of Kirby getting stabbed and killed with a lot of blood thrown in, which is a little bit extreme in my opinion, but nothing worth giving attention. The Kirby fandom disagrees with that mentality, however. That's right, just as we stopped talking about how Kirby ate and Pure Lombardi, we started talking about how unjust and stupid this new subreddit and the person behind it were. I'll keep it short since there isn't anything unique to say about the drama involved in it. More people complaining about something unimportant, more people making more subreddits in response to it, more months of endless juvenile drama, and thankfully this time, the person behind the original subreddit stepped down. This is clearly troll behavior, and it baffles my mind that person behind the sub has been given this much attention. Don't feed the trolls, it's such an obvious rule of the internet, and yet Kirby fans ignored it. However, like last time, the person behind it has come clean, in a sense, and admitted to me why they did this in the first place. And no, I won't mention their YouTube channel, Discord account or anything, so that you can't harass them even more. But in short, it's because they were tired of the mindless Kirby solos this, Kirby solos that Powerscaling, and thought this was the perfect way to get back at the fandom. Not how I'd do that, but okay. So you can sense a pattern here. Someone will express their disdain for why they aren't into Kirby or as much as they used to, make a subreddit about it, only to get the fandom harassing them until they either stop the drama or get their sorry butt banned. In other fandoms that's bullying, in the Kirby fandom it's self-defense. I won't be surprised if something like this will happen this year or the next one. This kind of cyberbullying seems to be almost normalized in the fandom. The moderators at Kirby banned most of the posts about Kirby 8 and the Infinite Death of Kirby, while and after the dramas were over, which makes sense. They wouldn't want to cause more drama or remember you about the PTSD we had to endure. But the damage has already been done. People may not talk about it as often as they did, but they never forgot those events, and never will. And that's just the biggest incidents in the Kirby fandom. Furthermore, we've seen people mock somebody's friend because, again, they didn't like Kirby, but thankfully he wasn't assaulted this time. People mock somebody for claiming they prefer the original Adventure Wii over the remake, lose their marbles over tie records saying Kirby is overrated, treat the Cupcakes animation where Ribbon inflates everybody in a similar manner to Kirby like the most disgusting thing ever, despite that the content creator made it clear it wasn't war content, and they haven't made war content since then, or even before releasing that video. And that's just what they have done as of writing. And for those who say that all of this is justified, then let me ask you, where is the line? People who don't like the franchise after all who deserve to be punished? Fan-made content is a bit cursed? You can't use those arguments on every occasion. You You can't let the bullies run away forever. It's inevitable that if we don't do something about it, Kirby fans are going to want to cancel someone for being against the law-accurate Kirby portrayal, or hunt them down to the point where they might even need to delete their accounts, and there'll be no excuse to justify their behavior. Honestly, I do want to see that happen, because what the heck are we going to do then? Will we still act spineless? Are we still going to be on their side? Are we still going to say that the victims had it coming and deserved all of it? Or will that finally snap us back to reality? At some point, you need to sit down, think about all of this, and ask yourself, how much is too much? What will it take people to realize that maybe there's something wrong with the Kirby fanbase? Obviously, there are much worse things to worry about, even when it comes to things on the internet, but I just can't ignore how low the fanbase has sunk. I wish I wasn't saying that, and I'm not saying this to get some sympathy. I'm sure that I don't sound like a very nice person to hang out with right now. I'm probably not going to make many friends with this video. I wish I didn't make this video as much as you probably didn't want to watch it. I wish I could have made a short, simple video about how the Kirby fandom is as good as everybody says, perhaps even better, and go back to spamming garbage TTS in Twitch chats. But I didn't. And I know I wouldn't forgive myself if I did. It's sad that what was such a legendary community now is just another fanbase, which is held to higher regards because it's not as bad as blank. I miss the days when Kirby was just another character, when he didn't have a lot of attention, good or bad, when he could be anything you wanted him to be, not because that's how he would act in the games or because it was the cool thing to do, but because that's what you wanted to do with him. Nowadays he feels more and more like a shadow of his former self, an ugly demon wearing the skin of my favorite character. And it's as if this narrative has been attached to any iteration of the Pink Puffball. The current appeal of the series to many is that it's about a marshmallow killing eldritch abominations.
They couldn't have chosen a better match that I believe helped start one of the strongest and universally believed ideas on the internet. Kirby is the cutest eldritch abomination in all of fiction, and that's why we love him!
The average current description of Kirby is that he's a beast that can tear apart demons by just spitting on their eyes. And if you think that's how the series got to where it is today, then you don't know what Kirby is about. The franchise used to be seen as more than just the kid who eats things, or you thought it was for babies but it's actually pretty dark. I don't like the franchise because of that, not even close. It's not just an all fluff series or Evangelion 2.0. Sure, it prioritizes its kiddie elements and brings its dark aspects only at the end of its games. I'm not acting like it's a soap opera or anything, but it handles both of them in a mature and respectful way. I love its hidden messages that I appreciate more as I grow older and less bubbly, that you can overcome even the greatest of challenges, and that somebody will always be there for you, regardless of your skills, age, and personality. It's the kind of messages that are pretty cliché on paper, but in practice, I think Kirby is one of the few franchises that doesn't make them feel forced. And a lot of the old internet media understood this. Back when Newgrounds was the corner for edgy teenagers and not just YouTube 2.0, many characters were flanderized or even turned into ugly versions of themselves. There were definitely exceptions, one of these being the Pink Puffball itself. There is something about the old Kirby community that is really great, and that's coming from someone who would rather embrace the future. I really wish I could have seen it when it was there, because from what I saw, it was amazing. The thing I admire about it the most is that everything had art and care put into it. Even a web series like Perfect Kirby, which goes to the troubling process of putting Kirby characters in the universe of Perfect Dark, and giving the Puffball a gun, still has a lot of authenticity. When you laughed, you didn't laugh at Kirby having a gun or having gun-related shenanigans. You were laughing because of something so real or something related to the way those characters interacted. There used to be a mixture of creativity and earnestness behind the fandom's greatest creation. The creators back then might have just portrayed him as a regular hero with a generic deep voice, or based it on the anime, but that didn't mean the ideas, the vision, the art wasn't there. Because when I look at Kirby stuff from this period, I see some of the most polished and unique comics, fanfics, and videos. One of the most underrated aspects of Kirby's Memory Soft is that it wasn't just a Kirby fan site. It was a fan site that happened to be about Kirby. Everything was possible and welcome. You didn't even need to be a great artist or writer. You just needed to be good enough. But those people did more than good enough. Go back to the fan comics from this website and you can see how imaginative they were. A comic from Gui's perspective, a behind-the-scenes-esque look at the cast of the Kirby games. A comic literally about Waddle Dee being stuck in a room and doing everything they can to get out. Of course, not everything was this creative, but even the simplest Kirby comics and fanfics weren't without their art or ideas. And that wasn't just the case in Kirby fan sites, but everywhere. When people think of Kirby fanworks, they think of the creative world flash animations about the franchise. They think of PT64's parodies, Kirby Warrior RPG, the Strike Force Squad, Brawl Towns, a Man Problem. These aren't just names that evoke nostalgia, they're the relic of a, let's be honest, much better time. Brawl in the Family especially holds a special place in our heart because it was very funny while also not being afraid of having more somber moments that made us think. Kirby was the heart of that comic. It was fully aware that it focused most of its comics on a character that can be drawn by anyone in their textbook, and it didn't dumb down its segments about him or any other character from the Kirby series. Not to mention that for being such punching bags most of the time, there were a lot of fanfictions about the series that weren't as awkward as those from most communities tend to be, and usually turned out pretty good, like Fix You by Jade Dragon Knight. And if you wanted none of that and instead fancied something simpler, there were content creators like Moon Warrior Autumn who had some cute Kirby related material to show. Every good aspect of Kirby fanworks at the time culminated with videos such as Tala Hamir's Kirby Plush video and the second part of the now cancelled Superstar Mario Bros. Where not only did Kirby's brain shine through, but his art as well. He may have been a kid, but he was a smart kid, not a cartoonishly stupid, babbling baby. There was always something new, something that appealed to any type of audience. There's a ton of Kirby fanwork from this golden era we cherish to this day, and I doubt it's because of nostalgia. We still love them because they are creative, they are funny, they can sometimes be deep and mature. It wasn't the norm at the time. Other fanbases weren't so lucky, so seeing Kirby of all things having such a consistent streak of good content was fascinating. Perfect Kirby didn't need to be a good attempt at a perfect Dark and Kirby crossover. Kinda Genius didn't need to make a badass Kirby animation. Brawl in the Family didn't need to have that SpongeBob-Squidward relationship between Kirby and King Dedede. The Strike Force Squad, as well as most sprite animations with Kirby OCs, didn't need to include the teen-friendly humor and drama. Tala Hamir's Kirby Plush video didn't need to make Kirby train and earn that strength to defeat his rivals. A lot of fanworks from this era didn't need to go a step further, but they did, and that's what made them stand out. The people behind them wanted to make timeless classics, not mindless entertainment that would eventually become irrelevant. Yeah, you had a lot of Kirby yaoi and Meta Knight fangirls to deal with at the time, but is that why you think the current fanbase is better? I hate to break it to you, but every fanbase has these kinds of problems. If you hate this era because people wanted to mix Kirby characters and lemons together, then you don't know what you're missing. Sure, the Kirby fanbase at the time wasn't perfect, but it definitely tried to be one of the best. The stuff that was stupid wasn't as annoying as it seemed, and when it was good, you knew you had something special. I'll always cherish the era when Kirby was more than a powerhouse, when he had a functioning brain, when he was actually intimidating, when his strengths and weaknesses made sense, when his anger was justified, when he could be both the straight man and comic relief, and it didn't feel odd. Now, take that analogy I used earlier for Phenom Kirby and tell me if that applies to any pre-2015 fan media. Do you ever get the feeling out of these fan works that Kirby could just send his victims to the Shadow Realm with no effort? I don't think so. But in the family especially shows us a lot of moments where Kirby eating something backfires on him. A bomb, an Audi, his reflection. That and much more is why I consider the 2000s to 2013, 2014-ish to be the greatest era for a Kirby fan. And despite the mid to late 2010s being different, I wouldn't call that era bad per se. What made it different is perhaps how more restrictive the fanbase felt. People started treating Kirby like a powerhouse of someone who couldn't speak, and the fanfics were pretty simple at the time, but what they lacked in creativity, but it more than made up with the character interactions. Many fanfics from this era are my favorite when it comes to Kirby, and they follow pretty simple stories. And while I prefer the more obscure Kirby videos from this era due to how emotional and real they feel, the popular ones are still pretty fun. Like, who doesn't enjoy 6 things Kirby should never inhale? On the other end, we will get videos like Dream in Nightmare Land and Nightmare in Dark Souls, where we would meet this guy. But back then you had the benefit of the dubs that the people behind them did it to escape the more wholesome content. Many of them weren't well animated. Heck, some weren't even animated. The one to hot meal Kirby is a menace to society saga is literally just a man rambling over images. That's why Simple Flips couldn't help but laugh, because it was fresh. But perhaps what hurt low-accurate Kirby content was its frequency. Starting from 2020, it rose to the top until it became a part of the fandom's identity. Instead of standing out from the norm, it basically became the norm. All in the Family would end with the musical number One Final Song, just before Smash 4 would release, and a few weeks before the Death Battle episode Kirby vs Majin Buu would rear its ugly head. Many at the time saw it as a proper ending to the webcomic, but what many at the time didn't know was that it wasn't just the end of the webcomic, but the end of an era. This narrative that Kirby is this omnipotent godlike creature started with that cursed Death Battle episode, and it has been absorbed by every popular content creator. Over and 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 over again. You know, at least in the animation made to go along with the Death Battle episode, Kirby wasn't always in the lead, and got scared of Majin Buu's powers at one point. Now it's like staring into the abyss when you look at his blue eyes. Suddenly, Kirby became another god of destruction when really he never was. Everyone expects Kirby to be a menace. Everyone expects Kirby to defeat someone by just staring at them. That's what's true to his character to most people. What made Kirby's more rude, cynical, or downright psychotic appearances was that there was at least someone who would stand up, not only for themselves, but for the people around them. But now, Kirby can pacify or root anyone he wants, for whatever reason, and it's not seen as weird or unfair by the majority. He barely has any character traits or weaknesses, and when he does, it's always tied back to his young age, such as when he learned how to write. Not saying these are bad concepts for an animation, but that's where his weak spots end. But hey, A ton of fan projects are still great, right? The art is still good, the games have never been better, and we also have a ton of Silver Gunner events related to Kirby music. Don't get me wrong, I love that we get stuff like this, but how many people do you think are going to check these things out? Do you think that most of the people who watch Super Smash Bros. Bloodsuckers know about the Superstar Symphony, never mind if they checked it out? No, not really. Whether you like it or not, most of the attention Kirby gets on the internet is from the animations, videos, and comics. And if that's the standard going forward, that's not a good sign. And as Kirby took a turn for the worse, his fans followed suit. Recently especially, it looks like they've grown a huge ego, and it's hard not to notice it. They know that they don't need to impress viewers anymore. They also know that they don't need to be nice to the people around them, because there will always be someone who will defend their actions, no matter how low the hole is dug. They've always frowned upon Matt Pat for spreading misinformation about how dangerous or even evil Kirby is, and yet, they don't mind when other content creators do it. They long to be as sweet as Kirby, and yet, they always end up causing drama for the most meaningless things imaginable. They weren't always like that. Even back in 2020 when we got Bloodsuckers, Kirby vs Everybody and Kirby vs DDD6, they were still pretty friendly. Yes, they got into a fight with Shen, but that happened on Twitter. Who isn't toxic on Twitter? It's still not excusable, but it's at least understandable. Today, there's always a post on the Kirby subreddit about another power scaling debate that ends with Kirby is the victor. People are always searching for the next guy to mock for not liking a certain aspect of the franchise. And they get away with it because it's the Kirby fanbase. You can't say anything about the Kirby fanbase. The way they've taken Meteor and the Shining Force words and twisted them to fit their own narrative makes my stomach turn. Even the fandom's humor outside of Kirby's treatment at this point has gotten stale and just white noise. A lot of people in the fandom don't know how you can be funny using the source material, so instead of making other types of posts in the subreddit like discussion threads or sending artwork they made or artwork from someone else they like, they make the most blatant "ooh, butterfly scary" and "beam attack" jokes. There's no variety, nothing that leaves you guessing, the punchline is always the same, and I can understand when it's kids doing it, but most of these people aren't children. They've entered adulthood, or are close to that, and still make jokes that even preschoolers would think are stupid. And just like with those that criticize the power scaling behavior, those who dare to make fun of these jokes get their posts banned by the moderators for being not family friendly or not adding to the discussion. Because the 5900 beam attack joke with the same setup, build up, punchline, everything surely adds to the discussion. Oh no, someone would have died if we didn't post that. Playing two truths and a lie on the subreddit is a no-go, but beating over not one, but two dead horses? That's completely fine. Let beam attack overtake your mind, absorb it, allow it to make you go insane, turn it into a religion. The fandom is so obsessed with itself and its own opinions and humor to the point that it will silence anyone for having different major takes or trying to criticize them, even in a respectful manner. If the mods on the Kirby subreddit ban me from posting or commenting there ever again after watching this video, that's only gonna further prove my point. They're not angry because you're doing something wrong, they're angry because you're trying to boost their bubble. And that ties in with what I think the appeal of Kirby is right now. It's no longer about the beautiful messages the series talks about, of the relatable, somewhat down-to-earth characters, unless it's about the deep lore. It's just Kirby, Kirby, and more Kirby. Do you like Kirby? Then you sure will love the drawing, and the Kirby ideology, and who can escape Kirby's vacuum? Who cares about the quality? It's Kirby! When they aren't praising mindless garbage or ranting about how every power scaling debate in existence has to end with Kirby wins, X loses, or whining about those who don't like Kirby, They moan about how the Pink Puffball hasn't been that good in the Smash series since its first starting. Even though Ultimate has had many occasions where players had pushed him to the point that a Kirby main has the potential to be a formidable foe in competitive play. So, in other words, activities in the fandom include praising Kirby, complaining about Kirby, complaining about Kirby, and, you will never guess this, complaining about Kirby. What a list full of variety. Kirby is a religion, and I genuinely don't know how most people didn't make the connection, because it just is. And I wouldn't even be that upset about it if Kirby fans were more honest. I would be okay with this. All of it. Begrudgingly for sure, but I'd be okay with it if they just went, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't enjoy this, let's just agree to disagree. Instead, they get very defensive about it when they're the same people who will be happy to tell you that you're taking this stuff too seriously. No, this doesn't make Kirby look like a menace, nobody thinks that, never mind genuinely. No, this series is not treating Kirby like a Deus Ex Machina. No, it does not matter if this scene ruins the project's ending. Kirby can still beat Sephiroth easily, just like how he can beat God. In fact, that last statement doesn't even feel ironic anymore, like it's just a crude joke and that's it. It's only a matter of time before Kirby fans are going to argue about how Kirby is stronger than God himself, the one that created the world, and us humans. Unironically, have a war with the Christian community, and by the end of it, people are still going to side with the Kirby fandom, saying that the community was bullied by the authors by getting reasonably upset after asinine claims and putting out negativity, so it's okay. Just like they did when regarding the incident involving pure Lombardi. There's irony in the current state of the fandom. Back in the early 2010s, you were free to slander Epic Yarn or Mass Attack for being different from the average Kirby formula, and call the series dead. But now that the hype for the series is at an all-time high, people panic whenever someone dares to dog on any of the games, never mind spin-offs that are mechanically different. Again, Kirby is treated like a cult, incapable of being criticized because it's impossible to hate, and criticism of it will send you to the worst pits of hell. I think it's needless to say that the idea that a character of series is impossible to be disliked because a ton of content creators say that in their videos is utterly ridiculous. But that's what gamers like us have to deal with on a near day-to-day basis. It got so bad that when someone made a post with the purpose of insulting Kirby, most people didn't have it in them. People can't even bring themselves to call a cartoon character the S-word in a discussion thread where that's the point, because to them, it's comparable to saying the N-word. This is a reality. The saddest part is that things are only going to get worse from here. Many act like you're being too dramatic and that what you're talking about doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bastardized Kirby has become. It doesn't matter that Kirby lore enthusiasts take it too seriously. It doesn't matter that they're insulting people for a very different opinion than theirs. Chill out. There are worse fan bases out there. No, we know what you're talking about. We made 10 essays about how Story of Undertale is the worst thing ever just because it's ugly. We know what we're doing. All this stuff will continue until the internet wakes up and realizes that the Kirby fandom isn't any better than the others. And that the series isn't a second coming of Christ, that its track record isn't almost perfect, and there's many games that are bad, mediocre, or divisive in general. The Kirby fanbase being the best fandom out there is becoming less of something to cheer on, and more of an excuse to shut down any criticism towards it. It doesn't matter how low they'll go, they'll never top the Sonic fanbase, as if being better than the Sonic fanbase means anything. On the contrary, at times you feel like you have it better in the Sonic or Simpsons fandom. For all of the problems they have, at least people don't try to kill you for saying Tails or Bart is stupid, and if somebody does, either they're joking or they're ratioed by the others. In what other fandom do you see your favorite characters turned into evil gods of distractions because of some text on a screen? And similarly, in what other fandom will you see a Vaporwave team video where they have an existential crisis while home music plays in the background? What other fandom has content this beautiful or mature? The best people in the Sonic and Simpsons fanbases would kill to be in that same position. The position of doing a lot of bad stuff and getting away with it because of their die-hard supporters. You have no idea how lucky we have it. Sure, Sonic, Simpsons, Pokemon, Twilight, The Amazing Digital Circus, Undertale, all those fandoms are worse in many ways, but at the very least, they get called out. That's not really the case with the Kirby fandom. And that's why I made this video. So those people who wanted to call them out but are not doing it themselves out of fear of getting cancelled, will let their voices be heard. And those who don't know of the fandom's true colors will finally learn about them. You may see these people in the fandom as the heroes right now, but it's those same people who are going to ruin its reputation. And I'm doing everyone a favor by not covering the Susie incident from 2023 for minutes at a time. That's right, there was a Susie related incident in 2023, where people went ape over how someone drew her with realistic proportions and how, according to those, it's sexual. It made waves in our Kirby and yet I've seen no one talk about it. Not even Meteor, who you think would be perfect for this kind of conversation. He even talked about the Susie incident that he unintentionally made happen in 2021, arguing that Kirby fans harassing someone on Twitter for thinking she was a robot to the point she deleted her account was very toxic. But no, he never mentioned the incident in 2023 and he never even talked about the drama involving those two subreddits. Did he talk about the perils of powerscaling debates? Well, kinda. He made a video about whether Kirby or Sonic would win in a fight, and it was the most neutral stance I've seen all decade. He did argue that powerscaling is silly, but that's it. He didn't even call out the fandom, which usually harasses those who might think Sonic is stronger than a pink blob, almost as if he was scared of starting another war, and this was his best solution. The rare occasion when someone gets called out, it's almost always someone nobody knows about, like FNAF banned the Kirby fan 1. Even more popular cases, like Toxic P, are short-lived, as he admitted that he didn't know that the words he said hurt and was sorry, and people were okay with that. I hate to ask this question, but what if somebody even worse came into the Kirby fandom? What if it had a Pamperchu, or Ouija Pie, or Lankybox? People who are known for being bad content creators, or bad people in general. Would that be a problem? Or does it not matter what people are in a fandom, so long as it's about a pink puffball? That's the most damaging thing. Unlike other fandoms, Kirby fans almost never have a moment where they ask themselves if what they're doing is wrong. They never ask themselves, are we treating people too harshly? Does doing what MatPad said in animation/comic form make us look bad? No, they don't do that. Instead, it's always, the people who don't side with us are wrong and deserve to get their bums spanked. But the saddest thing is that they spread all this negativity, all this vitriol, all this verbal violence over the most sanitized, kiddified versions of their favorite characters. As I wrote the script for this fourth and hopefully last take on this video, I had an existential thought about this franchise. Have I really outgrown Kirby? The thing that brought me so much joy back in 2020? As I did, my thoughts shifted to one of those classic Kirby fanwork creators, kinda genius. I remember this stance on how Kirby changed for the worse when the anime came out, turning him into a dim-witted, impulsive being. This guy/girl, or whatever pronouns they go with, already thought that Kirby was a shell of his former self in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I know this creator. Not personally, no, but I know the works they've done to push against that narrative on the internet. I wonder how they feel about the fan media promoted in the Kirby fandom today. What do they think of the new flanderized interpretation of this beloved character we have grown up with? I don't know them personally, so I don't know how they feel, but it can be a good feeling. Failing to push the portrayal that your favorite character is more than a weapon that looks cute is soul-crushing. The Kirby fandom has changed a lot in the last 5 years, and will undoubtedly change even more in the second half of this decade. It's easy to argue that if you don't like something, you should just stop engaging with it, but that doesn't solve the problem at large, does it? If a computer doesn't work, you don't fix it by turning it off and then booting it up 1 month later. And by that logic, we can't fix the Kirby fandom by ignoring the fans, or worse, defending them. Kirby means the world to me, and seeing it be turned into this upsets me. Cute Kirby.exe, a creepypasta fan game released in a post-MatPat world, is about how you shouldn't treat the people you care about like playthings. And yet Kirby fans treat their characters like playthings. It makes you think, when did we get into this mess? When have we made the first misstep into the era we are in today? And how can we fix it? I'm not a very smart person, so I can't say how to change the fandom for the better except by recommending not to engage in these activities and check out better Kirby-themed content. Maybe guide your friends to stand up for the people in other fan bases who get treated harshly. There may be someone wiser than me who can craft a better plan. Maybe even one of the people I've criticized in this video will change their perspective on a lot of things related to the pink puffball and think of the perfect solution. But the only people who are going to send an impact to the Kirby fandom, and change it for the better at any rate, are us. So what do we do? I'm glad that I consumed good Kirby material during my childhood. Products that had love and effort put into them, instead of lecturing me about how a Mario recall of Shining RH Super Monkey Ball is comedy gold. But I worry that many people who are my age or younger may not know where to find some good content in the present. Something that can make you feel like you're a kid again, discovering the franchise or fandom for the first time and be amazed. Popular content creators tell you they'll give you stuff that can resonate with even older fans, eventually, but for now, they seem to be okay with releasing content that's for them and is appealing to mainly them. Some think that us older fans, or fans who prefer older content, just want perfect Kirby 2 or something, but really what we want is something that isn't afraid of being related to Kirby. That doesn't need to be a self-deprecating clown to be appreciated. Something that, like I said, can shake you to the core. If big content creators are not going to promote Taft, I guess I gotta do it myself. So I took matters in my hands and made a list of Kirby fanworks I've checked out in my last 12 or 13 years that I enjoy. The list will of course be updated after this video releases, hopefully soon. One of my top picks for a good Kirby content creator in the modern age and popular among the Kirby community is Terminal Montage, the guy known for making the Something About series and now its own cartoon, The Fruitless Quests of Nabu. His first 2 parodies, while definitely iconic, haven't aged the best in my opinion, but from 2020 onward, his Kirby parodies have found a good mixture of loud equals funny, Christian references, and other kinds of jokes. The Merry Kirby Christmas anthology has to be my favorite of his Kirby-related works, because they keep the essence while being much more laid back and heartwarming, like Christmas at Waddle Dees. And more recently, his take on a Kirby adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Chino Spike is one of those hit-or-miss content creators, whose track record is more of a mixed bag, in my opinion anyway. Sometimes he'll release a Gmod animation like Kirby's Food Priority, which hits all of the laws of Kirby fan animations, but then he'll pick himself up with something silly like Gooey's Fan Cannon Ride. Many of his sprite animations involving Kirby, mostly after 2019, have been consistent in quality, with Gooey's Fan Cannon Ride, Frosty Fools, Seaside Chaos, and his most famous, the Batamon arc. which is surprisingly still ongoing. There's no doubt in my mind that this last series is special to him, because it doesn't include any of the low-accurate Kirby stuff or shocked character traits you could attribute if you were to make a lazy parody. The Kirby Star is the perfect example of what shocked content could be if it wasn't just a comedy series. Kirby and Friends' first season was already neat, but season 2 is where things got really good. I adore his rewrites on Kirby Mouse Attack and Mario Odyssey with Kirby included, but his original works are no joke. Kirby in Screamland pokes fun at the idea of haunted house tropes and even has a cool fourth wall break joke at the end. Wario Brothers Strike It Rich, Megaland Party, Cafe Chaos, and the Edge Races also show what the series can do with multiple characters, even though the comedy there isn't always on the same level. It also has voice acting, so that's cool. If seeing the same characters bothers you for some reason, then you gotta consider checking out Lone Hulk and Soul Rune. They have all kinds of collabs and quick fun animations, with Kirby Rush being a tradition at this point. My favorite will be the fourth entry, because of the different games referenced, but all of them are great. They feature skits from a ton of Kirby sprite animators, one funnier and cooler than the other. While we're talking about sprite animations, you should consider fine anime sprite animations where Kirby is present. There isn't one where he's the main character yet, but he's paired with Mario and or Sonic often, so it counts. Kirby Fan 88's Mario and Kirby Superstar Legacy and the Kirby Crew's Mario, Sonic and Kirby Warriors of Chaos are epic, and should quench the thirst for anime-like web series. They only released their first episodes, but they have announced recently that SSL and WOC's second episodes will very likely release just as the new year starts. Hopefully they will pop up as soon as you finish watching this video, or even before I publish it. There is also Origin of the Meta Knight, which is an origin story for Meta Knight that was supposed to continue in the 2020s, but by last year has since been cancelled. It includes some new characters to make the Galaxy Soldier army richer, and there's some from the games to make this more rewarding to people who prefer the game continuity. It's like it was made to appeal to both the Kirby game and anime demographics. It's genius. While we're at it, why not talk about webcomics? We've had one-offs like Chilly Reception, which is basically just a Waddle Dee and Kirby messing around in a story page for 20 plus pages, and Meta Knight Wants to Battle, where we get a good example of a mischievous/rude Kirby by Dog22322. But some do Kirby comics for a living. People like Kokudos are famous for the Kirby's Nightmare series, which I should revisit sometime. But there are also ones that I've actually read, like Dreams of the Stars, which focuses on mostly original characters, and the Meta Knights. Twilight and Robbie are genuinely great, not just by OC standards. I live for characters like them. Lastly, fanfics deserve a spot in this video. If you like reading like me, then I've got the perfect list of Kirby themed stories for you. There are obviously the classics like Fix You, who's been remade by its original author, Jade Dragon Knight, as well as entirely new stories like Clocks and Chosen Family. But if you're looking for something more recent, then you gotta check out Jewel CEO and Azura Naito's works. Number of Nightmares is a favorite of mine, and I wish it wasn't cancelled. The Babysitter is also another great story full of Kirby and Meta Knight bonding moments, and thankfully it was finished. Azura Naito's stories are usually more mature and darker than Jewel CEO's, but still great for Kirby fans who like the anime. Nobody Deserves Being Alone and Remembrance of the Dead both explore Meta Knight's tragic life, and both deal with self-harm in a much more mature way than today's Kirby fan works usually deal with, and how, despite his real family being gone, the Knight still has a group of creators who still care about him. Even more recent stories are the Kirby tales you should consider checking on AO3. Xandrate's Playmate and The Storm are also full of Kirby and Meta Knight fluff. The latter even has Kirby Speak. Dream Puppeteer also has some pretty good Kirby-related fanfics, except these have a more in-character Meta Knight. An Age Beyond Others is about Kirby growing up and facing the truth His slow aging process is both a blessing and a curse. Also, Metamorphosis takes place in the game counterpart and is about Morphonite, so that's cool. All of this and more will be included in a Google Drive file, as well as a YouTube playlist for the fan works that are up here. Making this list has been refreshing and finally gave me the answer to the question I asked at the start of this section. No, I haven't grown out of Kirby. It was the content I was watching that I didn't enjoy. Please, go and support these people. For those who have watched this video until the end, thank you. You're the ones who keep this fandom alive. May 2025 be the turning point we've all been waiting for. Good night.